Morning, folks. It's Friday, March 27th, end of the week. I'm actually in a fairly good mood this morning. Decided to, had to take my daughter to school today early. So I decided to put on some real big fish. Haven't listened to them in forever. And it's hard to be in a bad mood when listening to upbeat ska music. So that was fun. Um, a quick reminder, not that you need it because they're already projected to be the largest protest in the history of the United States. However, tomorrow, Saturday, March 28th, of course, nationwide No Kings protest. There are over 3,000 marches planned across all 50 states. So, again, they are projecting that tomorrow will be the largest day of protest in the history of the United States. So I don't think you need to be reminded, but just in case, that is your reminder. A couple of quick super chats to address here. Brian S. Hall says White House babysitter squad diaper changers. Andrew Brandon says Dr. Annie Andrews is running for the Senate against Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. So if you are in South Carolina, make sure you get out, vote in the primaries, and of course, do not let us down by not voting in the general. Timothy Vince says Foodie Friday. Probably not today. I don't know. It's not that I'm not feeling it. It's just that I've got a lot that I have to take care of today, which annoys me. It's not that they're annoying things. It's not that they're difficult things. It's just a big, long list of stuff to do, which kind of takes away the good mood from the ska music a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens when we get there. But let's go. Let's start this. Let's get on. Everybody's here. Everybody wants to hear what's happening in this crazy old world of ours. And we do have a lot of crazy to talk about today, including what might be the most insane thing anyone in this administration has ever said. And shockingly enough, it actually came from J.D. Vance himself. But that's coming up in just a little bit. Donald Trump. We have talked a lot, obviously, rightfully, about Donald Trump's continued declining mental health, I guess is probably the most polite way to phrase that. But a former aide, Miles Taylor, who, of course, during the first administration is the one who wrote that op-ed that said, hey, we're, leading the resistance from the inside. But he had another op-ed come out this week in the I paper where he pointed out that, yeah, obviously Donald Trump has this mental decline. You know, he's not offering any kind of diagnosis. He's not saying it's dementia, but he says the problem is it's not new. And this is something that he and the other folks inside that internal resistance in the first term had to deal with on a near constant basis. He starts by telling a story. Early on in the Trump administration, there's a Category 5 hurricane out in the Atlantic, and they're trying to talk to Donald Trump about it. They want to get, answers. We need to prep. We need to get people evacuated. And instead, Donald Trump went off on this ridiculously insane tangent about helicopters. Not the helicopters they're sending into, the eye of the storm, just about helicopters in general, right? And he's like, according to Taylor, he starts talking about the helicopters have too many parts. We need helicopters with fewer parts. You put more parts on there, there's more things that can go wrong, and that's why the helicopters are crashing. And they're like, cool, bud. We're talking about the hurricane, though, man. If we could bring it back a little bit, okay. I know helicopters are super cool, and we will definitely talk about helicopters later. But right now, we got a massive catastrophe headed towards the United States. So let's get back on track. But it's that type of pulling him back from the brink that Taylor points out is missing in this second term. And we saw it on full display in Thursday's televised, of course, cabinet meeting. Trump starts going off on random things and nobody in the meeting pulls him back. They're just like, yeah, he's right about that. In fact, we should talk about that. But here's what Taylor wrote. Let me be direct about something the political press keeps dancing around. The debate about Trump's mental fitness has always been somewhat misdirected. The question was never simply, is he sharp? It was always, can the system around him absorb his worst impulses? In his first term, it just barely could. In his second, it cannot. That's the real story, and it's far more alarming than any cognitive decline narrative. I'm not arguing that Trump has dementia or that any specific diagnosis applies. The question of whether a president is fit is partly medical, but also partly structural. Can the office of the presidency support the person holding it when the person errs, missteps, or fumbles on serious matters of war and peace? Are there people around willing to correct him to his face? Or, in the case of something like the Iran war, are aides prepared to explain to him the deadly consequences of a failure to prepare? Aides to the President of the United States are being careful not to speak truth to power. They're being careful not to challenge the president's disconnection with reality and cognitive obsession with believing he has achieved total success when, in fact, his actions have caused oil prices to skyrocket, U.S. allies to fear uncontrolled catastrophe, and the West's enemies to seize the advantage against us. They're too scared to tell him. Now, here's the thing. In the first term, as Taylor points out, they only barely contained his worst impulses. Obviously, there were plenty of times where he would publicly, declare these horrible impulses like nuking the hurricanes and Sharpiegate. But in the second term, that structure doesn't exist. Nobody is there to tell him no. He specifically picked these people to be part of the structure because they would not tell him no. And that is making the cognitive decline worse. We likely would not be seeing as much of the cognitive decline, I think dementia, that we do see if the people around him were able to rein him in a little more. And the problem is, unlike the first term, the cognitive decline is far worse today. It is unquestionable today. Back then, he would randomly say crazy things. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, the guy's a little off his rocker, but maybe there's not something dementia-like wrong with him. Those questions have gone out the window. They've all been answered. So as his mind got worse, which it is now, and I think continues to get worse by the week, it's getting even worse because nobody around him is stopping the crazy from getting out to the public, from becoming policy. And that's the real problem. There would not be as many questions, as Taylor points out, about his mental capacity if anyone in that circle were to just politely to tell him like, hey, no. But we don't have that. And we're all paying the price for that, literally and figuratively, every day. So, I got a YouTube featured tag on this live stream. Nice. I don't even know what that means, but that sounds great. Happy. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. Yvonne Courtney says, think we should call Trump Jack Dawson. I think that's an insult to DiCaprio's character from Titanic. I like Jack. I mean, not the worst guy. Stormbringer Graytail says, hey, Farron just finished Trump hazing his cabinet and thought about it. How has his team be after he's gone? Mass blank, finding a new master or disappearing and never returning. Your thoughts? I think they disappear. I think a couple of them are going to try to run for office. I think they're going to fail hilariously, and they will disappear for a while. They'll pop back up in conservative media or in podcasts. But I think in terms of Future office holding, no, that's out the window. William Stevens, thank you very much for the super chat. And Paula Trigg says there are many ways to assist the professors behind the scenes of protesting could endanger things like your job. On the topic of protests too, I do want to reiterate, with these projected to be the largest protests, single day in American history, don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything that could be shown on Fox News to somehow taint the entire movement. Okay? That is my advice. Please, for the love of God, don't do anything that's going to get you on Fox News to where they can paint every single protest as some sort of, whatever it is they want to paint it as. Signs, totally fine. Don't care what your signs say. As long as it's legal. I don't care if they, put, hey, this is a wacky sign, we're going to put it up there. Yeah, whatever. Spell them correctly. I will say that. Please double check your spelling. And if you're not sure, look it up. Let's at least be, correct spelling and correct grammar. Because that's more embarrassing, I think, than if they were to show you like throwing a brick through a window, which definitely don't do that. But please, that has always been a pet peeve of mine. And look, my grammar is not always perfect, especially when I'm speaking, because I'm, a million miles an hour in my head. In writing, it definitely is. My spelling is typically impeccable. And so it's always been a pet peeve of mine. I really, it bugs me so much. I really can't even describe how much it bugs me. But it is. All right. So as I mentioned yesterday, we had yet another televised cabinet meeting. And of course, all of these cabinet meetings, like the one on Thursday, are televised because we live in a reality show. I mean, could you imagine, before I even get into the heart of this, could you imagine if Biden had insisted that his bi-weekly cabinet meetings were all on TV and everybody gets to see, and we're going to address the cameras in the crowd? It is absolutely pathetic. But what's even more pathetic is the fact that the cameras keep showing up. They think this makes them look good. Oh boy, we're going to air this thing live. This will be great. You don't have to do that, media. I promise you, nobody's tuning in because the cabinet meeting's on. Oh crap, I got to watch this. No, that's not a thing. The media is so dumb because they're chasing ratings that are not there for them. And at the same time, they're part of the problem by refusing to just be like, nope, we're not going to do this. Y'all could stand up to this guy and you just choose not to. You choose to bow down. And when he says, hey, do you want to come in here with your camera? You're like, oh, yes, please, sir. Thank you so much. And all it does is make his entire cabinet look like idiots. So I guess that's the silver lining for the rest of us, is we get to see how stupid they are. Like, for example, Pete Hegseth. During Thursday's cabinet meeting, Pete Hegseth went totally nuts and started screaming at the media in the room for allegedly lying about what's happening with Donald Trump's attacks against Iran, which, according to all of the available evidence, are actually not going well at all. But here is what Hegseth said to that horrible media in the room, which, by the way, is just another reason why you guys shouldn't go, because you do get screamed at and told that you suck at your jobs. But Hegseth said, quote, the folks here in the room, these cameras, they have a choice. You're either informing the American people of the truth or you're not, because I hear it from my people every day. Behind every headline you write, there's a helicopter crew in the air, and behind every news banner you write, there's a battalion on the move, and behind every fake news story, there's an F-35 pilot executing a dangerous mission. My message to the media is get it right. He then said, unlike Iraq, this isn't a lie, or this isn't a tie. This is not parody. This is not chaos. This is success, pure American success on plan, and as the president said, ahead of pace. Now here's the thing about the media, though. Okay. If President Trump had not acted, you'd be screaming, why not? And now that has taken decisive action, you're asking, why did you? It's the same old tired playbook, Trump derangement syndrome in your DNA. But the hardworking, God-fearing, patriotic Americans out there know better. Boy, howdy, there is so much to unpack from that. The Iran war that Donald Trump and Netanyahu and, of course, bin Salman started is historically unpopular. So for Hegseth to end that with the God-fearing people in this country know what's happening, they do, and they fucking hate it, right? You left that part out because nobody likes this, especially not MAGA, actually. So wrong on that front. Not to mention, nobody was asking, why aren't you attacking Iran before he attacked Iran? That's not a thing. Nobody viewed them as a legitimate threat to our way of life here in the United States. And of course, this is success. Pure American success, he says. Really, because a story came out this morning, actually technically yesterday, but I read it this morning, talking about the fact that we're running out of missiles because you're so damn trigger happy that you fired most of our Tomahawk missiles and we can't actually replace them fast enough. That doesn't sound like success. Iran still has the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is coming out there every day mocking Donald Trump and telling the world like, hey, he's a big fat liar. We're not having any talks. They haven't reached out to us. We don't know who they're talking to. So doesn't sound like success. Not to mention, you also said something that I think you didn't mean to say. One of the biggest, points of this attack on Iran is that everybody is saying no boots on the ground, no boots on the ground. MAGA saying no boots on the ground. This administration not saying whether or not they're going to send boots on the ground, but Hegseth specifically mentioned, quote, battalions on the move. That is boots on the ground. A battalion on the move would effectively mean boots on the ground. Oh, well, I'm sure you can walk that one back. But again, he also started by saying, the media in this room, you have a choice. And as I started this segment with, yeah, you do. You can either keep showing up, chasing those non-existent ratings to these let's beat the crap out of the media sessions, or you can show a little bit of backbone, but most importantly, a little bit of self-respect and stop going into those rooms with Donald Trump and a camera rolling. That will hurt him emotionally more than any of those polls, more than anything, if the cameras are just turned off. I saw a bunch of super chats come through. Unfortunately, most not on the topic. I'm kidding. But I will say the reason I wait till the end to read the super chats is because you guys are great and you're super generous. However, a lot of them are not on topic with what I'm talking about. And so if I stop in the middle of something and go in a different way and then try to go back to it, it doesn't work for me. So that's why I always wait till the end. So yes, a lot of them come through and I do try to address them once I finish. And I hope I don't miss any, but I just wanted to clear that up just in case anybody's wondering like, oh no, he didn't get to my super chat. I do, I will, I promise. Zintoan says, with what seems inevitable, with no one saying no, when Trump does something, and this actually came in right at the end of the last one, something, again, they can't back down from, such as firing a nuke or an infantry attack, would blame be aimed appropriately, or will it be more of the same? I think everybody's to blame. I think every single part of this administration, obviously it always starts with Trump, but everybody below him that went along with it and had no issue with it, they also have to be blamed. And hopefully when this administration is over, also held accountable. Gargoyle Dragon says, does poor grammar bug you more than pickles? Yes, it does. Truly, truly does. Scotty Music says, don't be annoyed by grammar issues while speaking or writing. It's well known that intellectual people tend to mix up sentences due to fast thinking. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Every time I hear Keg's breath, I always hear tacked onto the end, and no woman has ever laughed at me. I can't like read his quotes without thinking of, God, I forget his name. Scarlett Johansson's husband on SNL. Colin Yost, I don't know how to pronounce it. But anyway, yeah, I keep thinking of his impression of Hegseth. So it makes it difficult to read his quotes because I'm thinking in the parody, not in the reality. Yvonne Courtney says, wish I could go to the No Kings protest. So please, you all on the other side of the pond, keep safe. Good advice. Definitely keep safe. Don't do anything stupid either, please. I don't think y'all will. Watch out for the agitators, though, because you do have people that show up to these events, not because they support the cause, but because we want to cause a scene. Those are the people we got to keep our eyes out for. V-Man says, Chuck Schumer led Senate Democrats holding their ground and getting a win on DHS funding bill. What's next? The New York Jets winning the Super Bowl. I honestly would have predicted the Jets winning the Super Bowl before the Democrats showing a backbone. That's how unbelievable this is, but credit where it's due, right? That's a good point, though. I mean, they're doing it. Zintoan says, with all these nonsensical tweets and speeches, does anyone else just want a MAGA to say they love a speech, have a Trump rant quoted, and a follower call it dumb before being told it was a Trump quote? I really, really wish we could get inside the heads of these MAGA folks. Like, I would love for one of them to agree to sit down on a therapist couch. Actually, not just therapist, an actual, psychiatrist, somebody that can prescribe medication because they need it, and let us televise it. Agree to just waive your HIPAA rights, all that. Like, yeah, I'll do it. Psychiatrist. We'll get to the bottom of this on live TV so we could find out why they are the way they are. But we'll never get that. I would love it, but we'll never get it. Perceived threat becomes real after Iran attacked, says Juan Peralta. And yeah, it's we kicked a hornet's nest. That's the best analogy. I've used it repeatedly. They were just there. And sure, they could do something bad, just like we could do something bad. But instead, they're just building their nest, doing their thing. And not good to their own people. Just kind of like most countries in that region are also horrible to their own people. Saudi Arabia, far worse than what Iran has done in the last year. But they're our buddies. Those are our best friends. So that's total bullcrap for anybody to try to use, well, Iran was going after their own people. If that's the case, then those Tomahawk missiles that we're now running out of probably should have been headed towards Saudi Arabia instead. Dr. Batman says, like with Trump, I'm wondering if Pete has bipolar disorder. He could. Like, the way all of these people go crazy and fly off the handle at the simplest questions, I do believe almost all of them have something diagnosably wrong with them. And bipolar seems to fit with a lot of them, including, I think, Caroline Leavitt, Hegseth, Jeanine Pirro, even though she's technically U.S. attorney, not in the cabinet, but still part of this whole thing. Zintoan says, with how long everyone in this administration breaking laws and avoiding accountability, could breaking the law for so long have any impacting on possible sentencing? I mean, if they're charged with it, yeah. But you can't sentence somebody just for something you you think they did, but that's not part of what, whatever trial it is. One more from Paula Trigg, and I'm going to move on, folks. I'm sorry. We've got too much to talk about. I appreciate it. You guys are overly generous, and I love it, but we've got to get moving on here. Paula Trigg says, yesterday, Alabama was talked about. Stand on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, drive the Selma to Montgomery Historic Trail, visit the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. It is a profound experience. And there really is so much beauty, so much history in the state of Alabama, just run by the worst human beings that America has to offer. And unfortunately, the voters in the state can't see that. They, they're still stuck in their 1950s way of thinking, and they're still mad about some of that, which I think does play a role, obviously. But other than that, man, could be a wonderful, wonderful place, if not for the horrible politics of it. One more real quick. V-Man says, Farron, I got good news for you in Florida. According to a survey by the Puerto Rico Research Hub, Trump's support among Florida Puerto Ricans fell 15%. And yeah, actually his support among Cubans in the state is also falling, which I think is why he wants to try to take Cuba to get their support back up. So any news of him losing support from any group of people is always good news. All right. So as I mentioned to start at the start of the stream, the craziest thing said by anybody in this administration, in my opinion, was said during the cabinet meeting that took place on Thursday. And it was said by Vice President J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, in an attempt to kind of drum up a little more support for the attack on Iran, actually suggested that Iranians had developed a nuclear vest, one of those unaliving vests, we'll call them. And they could walk into a grocery store here in the United States with their nuclear vest, detonate themselves, and then boom, there's a nuke. That's the nuke, apparently, that Iran was working on. Not like a big bomb to drop, but a nuclear vest to wear. Because even though Iran didn't even yet have the scientific capability to build a big-ass bomb, they were somehow so scientifically advanced that they have potentially created, or were about to create, the most sophisticated miniature nuclear weapon known to humankind. Here's what J.D. Vance had to say. What we have now that we didn't have when the president took over just a little over a year ago is the ability to use every tool at our disposal to ensure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. Because when I say options, I think it's important the American people know options, and it's options to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. I have to stop for a second. I want to read that again because it made this sentence he just said makes Donald Trump look like the most mentally fit person on the planet. Because when I say options, I think it's important the American people know options, and it's options to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. You're just saying the word options over and over, but you're not even saying what those options are. You're just like, look, American people need to know options, and options are there, and if we don't have options, then there's no options for us to option. Do y'all fucking option that or option not? We would just love to know what the hell you're talking about, bud. And then it gets crazy. You talk about people who walk into a crowded supermarket and have a vest on for what? And they blow up the vest and a couple of people get killed, and that's a terrible tragedy. What happens when what's on the vest, it's not something that can kill a couple of people, but can kill many, many tens of thousands of people? That is the most important American national security objective that exists for any administration at any time, is you don't want the worst people in the world to have a nuclear weapon. on a vest. Now, any nuclear vest is obviously going to be giving off some sort of radiation. Okay, and here in the United States, not necessarily everywhere, but big areas, we do have kind of a nonstop military type surveillance. And if there is any kind of major spike in radiation, like would be created from somebody wearing a nuclear bomb vest, those radiation spikes would be picked up by laboratories. They would be picked up by media, not media, excuse me, military, long before the person could ever put the vest on and walk into Winn-Dixie. But you got to live in fear. That's what he's doing. He's selling you fear so you support the horrible, crazy, stupid things Donald Trump is doing. We are right back to where we were at the start of the Iraq War. Fear-mongering. There is a terrorist around every corner. You don't know who it's going to be, but you know what they look like. That's where we're at now, thanks to J.D. Vance. They're going to come and put on a nuclear vest and blow you up while you're buying tomatoes. Is that what you want? No. Well, then you better thank God that Donald Trump is out there doing what he's doing. History is just repeating itself again. Those of you who were old enough, of course, to remember all of the fear-mongering about a terrorist around every corner during Iraq, after 9/11, we are right back to it today because that is what this administration is trying to sell you. Excuse me. Gargoyle Dragon says, somebody get J.D. Vance a nuclear couch. No comment on that. I like it. Skeets here says, talk about the height of idiocy. Iran was never interested in nukes. It is against the very religion they follow. This is just Bibi's wet dreams. I agree 100%. And we've made it worse. We had an agreement. You guys aren't going to do this. We're not going to cripple you with horrible economic sanctions. Obama signed it, his signature foreign policy achievement. Trump came in office, ripped it up, and the rest is history. If Iran, look, I'm not saying I want Iran to have a nuke. Again, I don't want anybody anywhere to have nukes. But there is nothing illegal unless you have treaties with other countries, which Iran, again, did not, for another country to develop the same kind of weaponry that we have. They're allowed to do that. It may not be safe for us if they do, depending on the country, of course. But, if Guatemala wants to go develop nukes, they're allowed to do it. If Antarctica, no, actually, I think we do have treaties where nobody can. So not Antarctica. If Ecuador wants to go develop nukes, they can. If Botswana wants to go develop nukes, they're allowed to. We were allowed to. Nobody decided to come and invade America when we decided to start building these things. But again, I don't want anybody to have them. But, it's so dumb that we're like, well, they're going to develop a thing. Okay. Are they not allowed to develop things? You can't just preemptively, that's like a cop pulling you over like you were going to start speeding. So I'm going to preemptively give you a ticket. Nope, not how the law works. Moondragon says, did Vance catch something disabling from that couch? Well, if he wasn't cleaning it in between, then yeah, bacteria is going to grow, fungus, all kinds of crap. Scorpius says, did JD actually give someone an actual idea what to do? Well, what he said is nuts. There are other things you can disperse. Yeah, but let's not, as you say, give everybody ideas here. Not that they probably wouldn't already have them if they were, of course, planning something horrible, but you get the point. Anyway, it is frustrating because I was in progressive media doing this, again, over 20 years now, during the Iraq war and all of that. And we talked about the fear mongering, and we talked about the lies, and we talked about all this. And now here I am 20 years later, finding myself having to say the same things. I mean, hell, at this point, I need to go find my old hard drive and just pull up all the research I had from back then and just use it again. Pagan Sky says, you said Iraq. My mind jumped to the Cuban Missile Crisis. By the way, is fair and balanced at Gmail yours? That does go to a mailbox that is controlled by us. Yes, it is. Republicans have the same playbook, says Metal Mark. Yeah, so I guess I just need to pull up all my old notes and get all that done. Let's keep going here. We've talked a lot and not covered a ton yet. And I spend a lot of time, putting all the stories together. So I like to make sure that I get through everything. Plus, it helps. It's the news. It's what we do. Let's keep going because yes, we still have more Iran stuff to talk about. So as everybody knows, the cost of the war in Iran has topped $1 billion per day. We are spending $1 billion per day. And the federal government, as the Treasury came out this week, told us, we're insolvent, which of course means we've got like this much cash on hand and we've got like this much debt, okay? We can't pay our bills because we don't have any money. So the question becomes, where is the $1 billion a day going to come from as this thing continues to drag on? Well, Republican Representative Jody Arrington from Texas has an idea, and that idea is we just take that $1 billion a day from the states that are already going bankrupt due to Republican rule. That's right. Arrington from Texas has put forth a resolution, I guess we'll call it, wants to make it part of a new reconciliation package that would steal money from needy states to fund Donald Trump's war. The money would be taken from what they're calling social programs, with a little bit maybe coming from Obamacare. So we may take away a little bit of your health care to go bomb a bunch of people who were not a threat to you. And we're going to cut your social programs. They didn't specify what those social programs would be. It's not necessarily spelled out in the resolution that Arrington has, but, we're going to take money away from effectively needy people in America so that we can bomb people in Iran. Now, the MAGA freaks have always said, and I say always, it's been a month, that this attack on Iran, how is this America first? Marjorie Taylor Greene said, how is this America first? Well, MAGA, you ought to be even more pissed off now because he is literally taking money away, honestly, probably from you guys. No offense, but let's face it, MAGA is not necessarily the country club crowd. So he's going to take away your health care to fund this $1 billion a day excursion that he was goaded into by Netanyahu and Mohammed bin Salman. So you will lose your ability to go to the doctor or to be able to even afford health insurance. You're going to lose the social programs in your state that is going to result in a reduction of jobs and lower economic activity throughout your state. You could lose your job just so he can do that. So MAGA, explain it to me like I'm 5. How is this America first? He's literally robbing from the poor, not to give to the wealthy, but to go bomb a bunch of people in a country that MAGA couldn't even point to on a map. That's the point we are at 1 month into this conflict, let's steal money from the states that Congress had already appropriated so Trump can keep playing general. Make waterboarding great again because justice matters. Let's not bring back torture, really, if we can. I mean, that would be great. Skeets here says, good, send Vance on the moon mission so he can feel what radiation really is without the Van Allen belt. By the way, every time a red gets a second term, they go way too far. The U.S. is actually going bankrupt. Delaney Fireheart says, I'm just glad my grandpa, a Navajo code talker, didn't live to see the Trump era. And it's a sad state of affairs in the United States when we have to be glad that relatives aren't here to see this. But, you know, that is the way it is. Shoot, I lost the comment, but I did want to read it. It said, America first because we're paying the bill. That is a great way to put that. That's America first. We're the first ones to have to pay for the stupidity of Republicans. Pagan Sky says, no. They already took the September 11th fee assessed to airline tickets to fund TSA and put it towards the national debt. TSA now discretionary funding source under DHS. And you know, Trump with his executive order, like, I'm mandating that the TSA get paid. You're the one who a week ago wouldn't let them get paid. You did that, and you think everybody's going to forget about it. But of course, polls have come out and said, nope, everybody blames him anyway. So we'll see what happens. Here's another one. This is a good one. This is a fun one. We're gonna enjoy this. So the Democratic Party came out this week, of course, after Democrats flipped 2 seats here in the state of Florida, one at Mar-a-Lago, one in Tampa. And the Democratic Party put out a statement that was picked up all over social media, went wild, about the fact that the Republican Party has not flipped a single seat since Donald Trump was sworn in on January 20th, 2025. Not one seat has gone from Democrat to Republican. And the Republican Party was pissed. They went out there saying, how dare you say this? This is a lie. This is not true. In fact, Kirsten Pels, Republican National Committee's national press secretary, said, Ken Martin, chair of the DNC, is desperately trying to spin state legislative specials as some kind of national wave, even though these races have never been predictive of general elections. The reality is that Democrats are consumed by infighting, factional warfare, and competing agendas that are tearing their party apart. Meanwhile, Republicans remain united behind President Trump and his America First policies that are lowering costs, strengthening our economy, and delivering real results for American families. Nothing you said was true. Nothing. Except that Republicans are united behind Donald Trump. And even that's not 100% true. Because you got a lot of Republicans breaking with him right now. But you see, dumb shit, the problem is that your party as a structure does appear to be behind Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is now historically unpopular. So the fact that your party has united behind him is dragging your party down, dumbass. So that's not exactly something to brag about. Like, hey, you know that guy who most people hate? And of course, they hate all of his policies? Well, we're behind him 100%. Vote for us in November. People are going to be like, okay, no, you're insane. Not because you're doing it, but because you're admitting it. Like, I'm not going to vote for people who are just going to do all the things I just told you I hate. But Kirsten Pels is out there like, yeah, we're going to keep doing it. And the economy's great. The prices are lower. Where? I mean, honest to God, the only thing that's come down in price over the last like 15 years is the cost of TVs. I mean, that really is kind of insane. Just a weird point to make here, but like eggs are up, coffee is up almost 40%, gas prices almost doubled this year. Meanwhile, you can still go out and buy an 80-inch TV for like $400, whereas 20 years ago, that would have cost you $15,000. And I know because the studio I worked at had to buy an 80-inch TV and it was $15,000. And that was actually about 15 years ago. But these people are delusional. The Republican Party as a whole, not just Trump, take him out of it. The Republican Party is completely delusional. And that's why you a-holes are losing so much. But if your delusion was kept to yourselves, you'd probably be safe. You wouldn't be experiencing the massive losses that you're experiencing right now. But you're trying to suck the voters into your delusion, pull them out of the horrible reality you created and into the fantasy world. And they're not buying it. So they're not going to vote for you. And of course, with these two conflicting narratives, Democrats saying Republicans haven't flipped anything, Republicans saying we're the best and Democrats suck. Newsweek decided, well, we got to fact check this. So Newsweek ran their fact check, looked at all the races, and I mean all the races, and it turns out the Democratic Party was correct. And Republicans have not, in fact, flipped a single seat since Trump came back to power. Don Quixote says, send Lindsay to Iran. Don't ask, don't tell. One of the worst kept secrets of Washington, D.C. Maybe that's why Lindsey Graham is just so damn angry all the time. Just denying his true self. Send Barron. He's a big boy. Oy. I mean, yeah, what happened to the draft Barron movement? I mean, yeah, that needs to kind of pick up a little steam again. Not to mention, like, his height is definitely an advantage. If you have boots on the ground, stick Barron up there and he can be like, hey, there's guys over here. There's people over there, some over there. They're on top of that building. I mean, he seems like a great asset, for the infantry, first wave. I don't know. Is it coffee in your cup? Yes, it is. And I will say this, just a little bit about me. I do sweet and low in my coffee. I don't do cream. I'm not a fan of cream, but I do sweet and low. I ran out of sweet and low this morning, which has not happened in years. Like, I always keep it. So I'm with regular sugar today, and I don't like that. Because thank you. You got the joke, because I said he's on top of the building, but it's Barron pointing down as a joke that he's actually taller than the building. So thank you. So anyway, I'm to regular sugar, and of course the taste is not the same. I can't get the sweetness level the same, so I end up with either something that tastes too much like candy or something that is not sweet enough. It's try honey. It's sweet and healthier. Trust me, I'm not drinking this for health. And no, honey has its own distinct flavor, and I like honey, but honey in coffee, no. So I appreciate that definitely, but that is not for me. Try stevia. It's sweeter. I hate stevia. Look, I know sweet and low is not the healthiest thing, and I don't care at all. Like, not even a little bit. That's what I like. I have tried everything else. Not the same. I like that. So that's what I do. I appreciate it. And I will be heading out after this and I will be buying more because I drink coffee all day long. Uh, but it is just annoying that I let that, dwindle down to nothing because usually I'm pretty good about that. I am typically any kind of supply in the house, and I consider the Sweet and Low a supply, not a food staple. I always try to have a backup. Like, I don't like to run out of things. So, paper towels, I've always got, I think, about 8 rolls on standby. Uh, just things like that. Coffee, I always have a spare thing right behind the one I'm using, just so. Uh, I really do. I like to have backups. And this time I ran out of the backup. Sweet and Low saccharin cancer packets. That was like debunked years ago. By the way, they did all the studies and they're like, we cannot find, correlations in this. And that is something, by the way, I have in fact looked up multiple times. So, but anyway, sounds like you probably shop at Costco. No, I don't. We actually don't have a Costco around here. I just, I get it. Anyway, we've lost like several hundred viewers in my little coffee sugar sweetener ramp. But anyway, one more, and this one is just one of the weirdest. Skeets here says, find an Indian grocery store. You can get 20 pounds of cane sugar for like $15. All U.S. lab-based foods are not good for us. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. I don't want to get into the, don't eat this food. This is bad. This is bad for you. My take on the food thing is if it's not something that is like, going to give you a specific form of cancer because they've put something in it, eat what you want. Okay. And look, if you know that something is bad for you and you choose to do it anyway, you have that right. You have that ability. Do it. And then you also deal with the health consequences. But as long as you're okay with that, like, I'm fine with it. I don't like to get preachy about food. I don't like to tell people like, oh, you shouldn't do this because no, if somebody likes something or enjoys something, for fuck's sake, let them enjoy it. And I'm not getting onto you, by the way, Skeets here, for saying that. But I do see a lot of folks on the left, typically, unfortunately, like, we're bad about that. And we try to shame people because it's like, oh, you're not like doing this, that. Let people enjoy their fucking lives. Like, that's the thing. Like, let's let people do what they enjoy. As long as it's not harming anybody else or depriving anyone else of their rights. If somebody wants to go eat a bowl of Fruit Loops, let them eat a bowl of Fruit Loops. If they want to put ketchup on their sushi, which is gross, but some people, let them do it. It ruins the sushi, but let them do it. Let's not judge. Member comment says, I waited till near the end of the show. Did you see the story about RFK and the roadkill raccoon that the Daily Show covered? I had not seen that. Which it's so weird because there's so many RFK Jr. roadkill stories. Oh God, that guy is so damn weird. Let people eat pickles. No, I'm gonna stand my ground on that. Pickles. I'm kidding. I like ketchup on my mashed potatoes. Don't judge me. I like to microwave my M&Ms. How about that? Right? I like the wavy Lay's potato chips, and I dip those in ketchup or barbecue sauce. That is great. But yeah, somebody just mentioned Farron preaching like in Thank You for Smoking. I actually thought about that movie the other day. But I do. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah. If you've never microwaved M&Ms, like if you're an M&M fan, which is just my favorite, regular M&Ms, microwave them for like a minute. Like put them in on a paper plate or a paper bowl. Microwave them for like a minute, and whole new level. It's like a whole new thing. That's our Foodie Friday for you. Somebody says, I melt my ice cream too. Oh, ice cream, like melty, not completely melted, but like even mostly melted. Like that's the best. How did you lose the weight? By not doing all of those things that I love. Listen, I was, a year ago, I was probably 6,000 to 7,000 calories a day. And I was eating the worst, most fattening stuff imaginable. And it's not that I would eat all day. Like all of that calorie consumption was dinner and the gigantic snack I would have after dinner. And I am not exaggerating. There would be some nights where I would have 2 pints of Ben and Jerry's that are, roughly 3,000 calories a piece based on the ones I eat. Because I loved it, right? I convinced myself, I love this food and I need it because I'm stressed and everything sucks and I want this comfort. So it was breaking up with food, changing my relationship with food, changing how I looked at it. Food is not for comfort. It's to fuel your body. And yeah, you want that fuel to taste good. But you only need what you need. I didn't need that, but I had convinced myself after years and years of doing it that I can't be happy if I'm not gorging myself on all of these things. So, that's what happened. The Mena, whatever it is, says, can we get back to the news, please? Yes. Although this comment's funny. It says, Trump is so racist, he throws out the brown M&Ms. A couple Gargoyle Dragon says, I dip my French fries in mashed potatoes. It's a bit redundant, but actually sounds like Farron being like Ron Swanson. I'm going to eat a 12-ounce New York strip, 6-ounce sirloin, bottle of Jack, and smoke my cigar because I'm an American. No judgment, but but it is funny. Yeah, I mean, look, smoking obviously is definitely dangerous. I definitely know that. And I sure as hell don't advocate for that either. And I'll be perfectly honest, you're looking at somebody who did for years and years and years. Horrible, awful, please don't. Carlos says, I enlisted under Obama and still serve, but feel like a minority among peers who largely support the rotten pumpkin. Here, hoping I don't deploy for this. I spoke to a friend of mine who actually enlisted after 9/11. And I mean, like, pretty close to like right after 9/11. So he's been in the military for over 20 years in the Navy, and he has moved way, way, way up. And I spoke to him, it was right before the 2024 election. And he mentioned, because, our other friend had brought up, he's like, yeah, the military is pretty conservative. And he, who has been all over the world, constantly moving, changing, going to all these new places, he's like, the military is. When you get a little higher up, he goes, those guys are pretty democratic, not Republican like people would think. So you do have, according to him, and maybe he's wrong, maybe he's just been, in liberal places, but he's like, there is a disconnect. The, enlistees, the, people that are just kind of starting out, they do tend to be far more conservative, but when you start moving up, you can find a lot of liberal in that. So, all right, let's get going here. Last one. I've kept y'all for an hour. I know you got things to do. If you spend any time on Twitter during the first Trump administration or during the Biden administration, before Elon Musk had made it horrible, you may have encountered this weird guy. And when I say encounter, you probably saw people mocking him. His name was Nick Adams, this conservative influencer from Australia who lives in the United States. But he always bragged, I'm an alpha male. I'm the epitome of what a man is. I love going to Hooters. I love big, curvy women. And those are all direct quotes from him, by the way. But he always talked about what a good male he is. And he's an alpha. I'm an alpha. Don't you dare not call me an alpha. It was announced this week that Donald Trump has appointed this weird conservative alpha male influencer to serve as the special presidential envoy for tourism to the United States. Nick Adams announced on social media, he said, major announcement, President Trump has appointed Nick Adams to the position of special presidential envoy for American tourism, exceptionalism, and values. In this role, Mr. Adams will play a vital role in revitalizing America's diplomatic position as a beacon of free speech, the freedom of worship, and a land of unlimited opportunity for those who align with the traditions and values of the United States of America. Adams then said, I am beyond honored to serve my country, the American people, and the greatest president and secretary of state we have ever had. I look forward to serving as America's brand ambassador, bringing the message of America's excellence to the entire world. With America 250, the FIFA World Cup, and the Olympics coming up, the world needs to be reminded of all we have to offer. I will be a tireless spokesman for American greatness at home and abroad. Australia, come and get this a-hole. Like, yes, he's an American citizen now, but he's a native-born Australian, and I am calling upon our Australian brethren to please come and get this guy and take him back. Let me read you some of this. This is what he wrote in 2023. He said, I appreciate a nice pair of boobs, and I'm not going to apologize for it. In another post, he said, I enjoy foursomes with the boys. Phrasing, you might want to think about rephrasing that, buddy. Then he says, I am enthusiastic about beautiful, curvy women. I need Trump in the White House. I am an alpha male. I'm sure you are. And when you have those foursomes with the boys, you are probably the one calling all the shots, right? Listen, you don't. If you're trying to say that you're just like the dudiest of dudes, right? Don't start by saying, I enjoy foursomes with the boys. Because a lot of people may not know exactly what that means, but everybody also knows what that can also mean. All right. And then you're like, I like beautiful curvy women with the curves, and their lady parts are wonderful. I know from experience. I'm an alpha male. I have never in my life seen anybody over the years get made fun of more than this fucking loser. And I loved it. That is actually one of the things I miss about Twitter, is seeing this guy just get railed by everybody on the social media app. It's been hilarious. But at the same time, he was given probably the worst possible job, a job where there is no hope of success. Do I care that he's going into the administration? Yeah. Will it also be absolutely hilarious to watch him be the face of America trying to get foreigners to come back? Absolutely. But we also have to point out the fact that this is yet another subpar white moron that somehow got a job they weren't qualified for within the Trump administration. It's the reverse DEI. Right? Republicans always said that DEI was just giving jobs to people of color or to women who weren't good enough for the jobs. No. You're thinking of what Trump is doing with the worst possible white guys you've ever seen in your life. Pagan Sky says, I would not give him the time of day. That's all right. He's got expensive watches, because he's an alpha male. He doesn't need the time of day from you, because he knows the time of day. I don't know that he can actually tell time now. It's probably a digital watch. Maybe it's one of those ones with a little calculator on it, because he also seems like he's probably not very good at math. But Australia, again, come get your boy, because for the love of God, we do not want him. Let him go to Australia and have his foursomes with the boys. And on that note, we're done, folks. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Thank you very much for your generosity with the super chats and all of that. We've got tons of great content coming up throughout the rest of the day. Enjoy your weekend. Take care of yourselves. I will see you Monday morning at 9 a.m. Central.